Welcome back to Workplace Wisdom and our continuing series on the visibility framework, a model that helps leaders understand how and why some employees feel excluded and the concrete actions leaders can take to be more inclusive and equitable. Today, we're focusing on our 8th barrier to inclusion, that last I in the word visibility. We're focusing on inadequate performance. Now, when we talk about inadequate performance, in this context, we're not talking about actual underperformance. That's a whole other conversation. We're talking about the employees that we assume are not performing. We're talking about leaders who might not feel as though this individual can be trusted with plum assignments and challenging assignments, stretch assignments. And as a result, because we don't trust that employee to do the more challenging work, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This employee starts to seem and look as though they are underperforming. Over time, this employee begins to feel boxed in, invisible, or worse, resigned to a role where they can't demonstrate their true strengths. For the employee being assumed to be an underperformer, this is exhausting. It creates a constant need to prove oneself, often with fewer resources or opportunities to shine. Imagine working twice as hard only to have your contributions minimized or dismissed. The result? Lower engagement, higher stress, and greater likelihood that this employee will eventually leave the organization, taking their untapped potential with them. So what can inclusive leaders do? They can interrupt this barrier to inclusion, and here's how. Number 1, check your assumptions. Before labeling someone as underperforming, ask yourself, am I truly evaluating the actual results of this employee, or am I reacting based on my own expectations? Build in accountability by comparing your judgments with objective metrics. I always say, compare this person to the person you really like in the workplace. And would you treat that person, your favorite person, the same way? Also, when expectations are transparent, it reduces the chance that assumptions or favoritism will dictate who is seen as successful. And then third, invest in their growth. If you believe that someone is struggling, frame it as an opportunity for development. Provide training, mentorship, or coaching rather than simply sidelining them. This shows the employee that they are valued and helps to unlock untapped potential rather than stifling it. I once had an employee who I thought was underperforming. And I'll admit, I was ready to performance manage this person out of the organization. But something just didn't seem right to me. This person had been a star in their previous role, but for some reason they were struggling in my department. So I decided to conduct a 360 with the entire team, and I also met with each team member. And when I met with the perceived underperforming employee, I discovered something eye-opening. This employee wasn't slacking. They were actually being unfairly asked by other team members to complete their work. In other words, they were carrying a hidden workload that no one had acknowledged, and it was keeping them from focusing on their own assignments. That moment reminds me of just how important inclusive leadership is and how it is important to be curious and to not just simply move on judgment. By digging deeper, I was able to address the root problem, the root cause, and to give this employee a fair shot. The visibility framework is designed to help leaders spot these hidden barriers like the assumptions around inadequate performance and to replace them with practices that create fairness, opportunity, and engagement. This framework is based on my book, Exclusion, Strategies for Improving Diversity in Recruitment, Retention, and Promotion, where I go deeper into these dynamics and share tools for building inclusive workplaces. If you found today's video helpful, click the like button and subscribe, and share this channel with colleagues and friends who care about creating workplaces where everyone can thrive. As always, I have provided you with information and not legal advice, so please feel free to consult an attorney or your HR director for more information. All right, I look forward to seeing you in our next Workplace Wisdom.